Greetings, shippers, welcome back, and it's time for another episode of Fanversations. This time we're joined by DC fan, longtime patron, and just overall fangirl Demi, all the way from Australia. So my second Australian so far. I love talking to all of you guys from all over the world. It's so exciting that we can connect in this way. So from the title, you probably gleaned that this is going to be a bit more of an opinionated Fanversation, and that's absolutely fine. Some are more analytical, some are more just, well, fangirl-tastic, and that's what this one is. So if you're interested in hearing us get a little bit opinionated, then this is definitely the Fanversations for you. I'm always so thrilled to do these, and even though I don't upload them regularly, they really are one of my favorite things to produce. It's just so fun to get to talk to you guys and hear your opinions about all of these things that we talk about all the time. I have so many more coming up. If you are interested, please feel free to email me at shippersguide-to-the-galaxy, and I will try to get back to you. If I don't, then please feel free to email again. It might have just gotten buried underneath everything else that's always happening in my inbox. Don't worry, I'm not scary, I promise. Please do remember though that patrons do get first dibs for these things. As you can probably glean from this channel, I have a lot of thoughts and feelings about DC, so yeah, if you want to hear some of them about the DCEU, the DCAU, Damian Wayne, Justice League, so much more, well then stay tuned, and you know what? Let's just get started. Hi!
Hi!
I think that was the best answer, by the way, to are you ready to talk about the DCEU?
Yeah. It's intense, this whole...
Greetings, shippers. It's Sasha here from Shipper's Guide with...
Demi.
Do you have any social media or anything you want to plug, or you want to jump right into it?
I have a Tumblr, so if you would want to discuss any more things with me after, it's at Demiwho on Tumblr.
Awesome.
So, yep.
So what we're about to discuss today is the DCEU. In one of my videos, I mentioned that I wanted to talk about it, and you reached out to me and we're down. And I'm very excited because not everybody is down to talk about the DCEU, or at least in a way that's not just exclusively bashing it, because I think there is more to talk about there. For sure, not just shipping wise, but just in general of how the DCEU is treated versus the MCU, which I find to be very fascinating. So firstly, what has your experience been with the DCEU? Do you like it? Do you hate it? Thoughts, feelings?
For the most part, I do enjoy what the DCEU is putting out because it is very different in comparison to the MCU. Yeah, to the MCU, but there are some problems, and those problems usually stem from what Warner Brothers wants to do with the products and what the head of the companies want to do with the products. So that's where I am a little bit annoyed with at the moment with the DCU, but for the most part, the movies are fine, and they don't deserve as much of the flack they get.
Yeah, they definitely get a lot more hate than is warranted. If you read the reviews, you would think they were the worst films ever produced. And
exactly.
They're really not that bad. So with that in mind, which one is your favorite, actually?
Wonder Woman, definitely. Yeah, it's a film that looks like the studios didn't put their hands into a lot. It looks like it's the film that the people who were behind it genuinely took their time with, and I think that really shows in the quality of the film. And other than that, I mean, it's Wonder Woman. She's kick-ass, and the film was just amazing.
It was nice, too, because she doesn't have as much of the on-screen history as the others. So it was nice for her to come on for her first big screen live-action thing, and for it to be that good was nice. Whereas for the others, Superman and Batman, we've had so many different versions of those movies already that there are people have so many different preferred canons, I guess. Like, there's so many different ways to look at Superman, to look at Batman and all the other characters already, that you don't really have that with Wonder Woman so much, unless you were really into the 70s show or, you know, one of those other things, but not everybody was. So
that's true, because you know, I rewatched the old Superman films, and the difference is just, it's a culture shock, because they made Superman into, I don't want to, they added more character and a bit more story to him in some ways. Whereas in the previous version, it was just camp and just, feel good movies to watch. Whereas Man of Steel was just sad.
I actually was calling it Man of Mope for a while because he was so sad. It was just him moping around the world. And
Yeah.
I think there's a way to do that. I think my biggest problem with Superman in the DCEU is that at some point they seem to have decided that they still want him to be this beacon and symbol of hope for everybody, which is definitely how I like my Superman. I enjoy him as being this hopeful, optimistic symbol. But the thing is, they never spend any time showing you that. In Man of Mope, he doesn't get to be Superman until the very end, where he destroys all of that property. And then in BVS, it's just people talking about how maybe he shouldn't exist over some montages of him saving people. And then they threw in that scene in Justice League where everybody's making fun of the CG'd mustache, where he's talking to the kids. Oh, the CG'd mustache.
I know. Honestly, I didn't see it when I first went to watch it. It did look funny. I'm not going to say it wasn't well made, but because I didn't go into the film knowing that they did CGI on his face. So I think with people, they kind of went into the film knowing this, and then they were looking for it. They were trying to
I definitely think so too, because people are saying it's the worst job ever. And I'm like, I think some of y'all, if you didn't know that it was done, it might have fooled you. So don't
definitely.
hate too hard.
And going back with Superman in Man of Steel, I think the music especially was so hopeful.
Yeah.
But they never went to that point, especially with the ending, the controversial ending where he ends up killing General Zod. Like, there was no sense of hope for Superman.
Before that, and they treat that scene like it's this great downfall for him. The giant nose scream, it's horrible, he's devastated, but they haven't established him as a character with that much of a code. So it's not like he has this big history that he's breaking in that moment. It's just, this was his first big fight ever, and that's how he ended it, so...
And then with BVS, we are opened with him throwing a guy through brick walls and stuff. I'm like, what?
So many people died in that building. Oh my gosh. And that scene was kind of uncomfortable for me, the way they drew all those parallels and the 9/11 imagery, and it was just, no wonder Bruce Wayne hates him,
Yeah, exactly. But that scene, it was chilling. Like, you did feel that why Bruce Wayne had thought that moment about Superman. It really showed that.
I think they established why Bruce Wayne didn't like Superman a lot better than they established why Superman didn't like Batman. Because I keep thinking of that scene, that scene with all of the dust and the floating, and I just kept cutting back in my head to the end of Man of Steel, where Jenny comes out and she's like, "You saved us." It's a funny juxtaposition, just putting them side by side like that. But I guess for me, I think I kind of like Batman versus Superman more than I think I do, because I've definitely seen it more times than I would watch a movie that I did not like. So I have to say that's when I kind of really got into the fandom side of the DCEU, was after Batman versus Superman, and I went on because I'm always a low-key Superbat shipper anyway, and so I went on to see what people were doing with it, and they were actually doing some really incredible fix-its and these long novella-length pieces of rewriting the entire movie with different backstories, and it was really cool.
Well, I didn't see what the fandom was up to after BVS too. Seeing how their attitudes, because I didn't go into the fandom after Man of Steel, because I'm like, what are they going to say? Like, the movies were fine, that's it. And I'm not really one to get into fandoms, especially after my experience with fandoms, which was, but until BVS, I didn't get into the fandom part, and the fandom is terrifying, to say the least.
It definitely can be. The figures are pretty good, I find, but there are a lot of, I guess, what could be called comic canon aficionados, let's call them aficionados, and people who are very concerned about the how we're reflecting the comic book characterization within these films, and those arguments, I find they can get pretty intense.
Yeah, and I don't know if it's just me, but sometimes I do agree, but I'm like, creative freedom, Zack Snyder's doing what he can with this, but then on the other side of me is saying, well, Zack Snyder really does not know his material. Because it is clear that BVS was very inspired by Frank Miller's,
the Dark
rendition of the
Mm-hmm.
and many will argue that that's just not Batman, and that's not the Batman we really want to see. He's cool and everything, but he's not the Batman we really want to see on the big screen and have the whole world know Batman as this character. Because that's what movies are. They really, they represent the culture of the time and the society and everything. So when you represent a character a certain way, it can really impact that character to the audience.
Yeah, their perception of it. I feel like that's why there was backlash against Superman killing, more so than the act of him killing itself. It was almost, I feel like it felt to some people like a rejection of what Superman is meant to stand for. That Superman is this wholesome character who's meant to embody that there's always a better way to do things. And so when you see that, it's kind of like, well, I guess we don't have a better way to do things right now. Just...
Yeah, I was shocked when it happened. I had to, I needed a moment. I was like, what is happening? How did Superman not find a way? But he really couldn't. Like, if you really look at the way they shot that scene, he really couldn't. And the way he screamed at the end was just devastating. So in that aspect, I really did feel for Superman, and I wanted him to find a way.
Where it lost me was when they went on to the kind of genetic engineering of the Kryptonians and how they all kind of had a function and a purpose, and Zod was giving that speech about how this is his purpose. His purpose is to continue the Kryptonian race. And then I just felt really bad because I was like, they're all dead. So now it's a tragedy. It turned into a tragedy, and I feel like the film never fully acknowledged how sad that made Zod's story, because it was like, it's Michael Shannon. He's screaming, he will find him. And I'm like, no, but it's still sad. But speaking of being shook in superhero films, the movie where I needed a moment was Civil War, because I'm a huge Iron Man and Captain America fan of their friendship in the comic verse. I got into shipping Stoney during the Fix-It era of the Civil War comic arc because we needed to fix it, because they were best friends. And so that scene at the end where he brings the shield down over where his arc reactor was, I actually gasped in the theater, because I was like, if he still had an arc reactor, he'd be dead. I'm not okay. He nearly killed him. I'm not okay at all. I'm still not okay. Like, if I rewatch that scene, I'm still like, I'm not okay. People don't call out the MCU the same way they do, which I really don't understand, because there are some very weak MCU films. There really are. There are a couple that, if they had been produced by DC, they would just be getting such scathing reviews that you wouldn't hear the end of it.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's the DCEU's fault for trying to make it seem that they were being edgy. They were going on the edge. They wanted Oscar-worthy films, and they fell flat. And also I think that, Hollywood right now, it's just oversaturated with superhero films. And I think they at this point, because the MCU has had such a history with their films now, they kind of give them a pass, and they're trying to get DC like, hurry up and catch up, like, come on. But then at the same time, it's like the critics want the exact same formula to be copy pasted to all the movies that the DCU is making, and I think that is completely unfair, because in general the movies they're not bad. They're really unique. They have a unique take on the superhero genre. I don't know what more they wanted, especially with Justice League.
Justice League, it was going to be hard going into it because they had to introduce so many people that they hadn't had the time to establish, unlike the MCU. We had to do all of that. We had to have some giant world-ending cataclysm, and we had to do it all in like 2.5 hours. So, you know, cut them some slack. They're doing their best. It came together pretty well for what it was, although I still find Batman's characterization very odd. Like, they can't settle on it. I'm like, is he a grumpy old man? Is he jokey? What are we doing? I don't know.
Just, I wish they would make a character and just stick with it and not listen to what the critics are saying. And it is hard because obviously the critics they're definitely going to push the direction of the audience. And I lost my train of thought. What was I saying? With Batman, my problem with Batman in BVS was his lack of, not compassion, but his lack of what's the word? He didn't care for human life. I forgot.
He was very cavalier and callous with where his bullets and buildings were falling. Definitely. That
annoyed me to my very core. But then to try and fix that, because they're allowed. All right, I give them that. But to try and fix that in Justice League, he really didn't save anyone. He was telling everybody else, but he didn't save anyone. I was like, okay, so does he care for human life or doesn't he care for human life? But yeah.
I was like, are we doing jaded, I'm too old for this Batman or not? Just pick one and I will be there for it. Although I did enjoy how at the end, I was watching Justice League and it felt like Bruce and Diana just got married off screen because they were just so casually close to each other.
Yeah.
Especially at the end when, spoilers for all people, get out now, when they're rebuilding the manor and he's all like, there's going to be a table there for 6 people. And she comes and takes his arm and is like, with room for more. And I'm like, are you going to have kids? Like, what is this?
So true. It opened my Wonder Bat feels. I'm like, I'm a child again, watching the animated version.
Yeah. It was nice because I didn't expect them to go that way. And that's why I don't mind when they change, canons or characterizations a little bit, as long as the character is recognizable. Because I did do a video back in the day, actually, about OOC, out of character characters. And I used Lex from BVS as my example because that was just such a confusing characterization, especially because they kept being like, he's not Lex, he's Alexander Luthor Jr., but then they just shaved his head and he was Lex. So I was like, well, is he Lex? Is he not Lex? What are we doing? And if he is Lex, this is a very Riddler-esque, odd portrayal of Lex to go with. And I don't think it was aided by Jesse Eisenberg's interviews that he did that I watched. That there's one that's great. I will link it down below because everybody must watch it, where he goes on and the person was like, well, what did you think about people who had critiques of your characterization? And he says, oh, well, I get paid to make movies, not watch them. I haven't seen the performance.
Great. We suffered through your performance, Jesse Eisenberg. Oh my gosh. I really think it wasn't the writing's fault what happened with Jesse Eisenberg's portrayal. It was Jesse Eisenberg and his overacting and his little twerks that he added into it. That's what kind of ruined the character. Because it was an interesting take on it, how he was a young Lex Luthor. His sad story. But I just feel like the little quirks that he added to try and make him into an eccentric character, what's the word?
Yeah, like eccentric, yeah.
Eccentric, yeah. He tried to make him very eccentric, and it fell flat because,
I feel like the editing also was part of that. There's one sequence in that film when he's going to the Kryptonian ship to get Zod's body, and I don't know if you noticed, but he's walking down the hallway, and they sync the music of him stepping with each step he takes, so it's like, da-da, step, like an old 30s cartoon, and I just burst out laughing because that's typically a cue for humor in those old cartoons. So it was just a very interesting auditory choice for me. I was like, is that what you're going for? I don't think so. This isn't supposed to be funny. But
I thought it was cool.
It's edgy like the rest of the DC.
Yeah.
So you mentioned that you stay away from certain sides of the fandom. Why is that?
it's just they're so aggressive. You can't have an opinion because it will jump down your throat. It's just I've never seen so much aggression in a fandom. And I've been in fandoms, and I've been in the One Direction fandom. And that's just aggressive teenage girls. Like that's terrible. But the DC fanboys, or yeah, that's what they call them. But there's girls in there too. But the DC fanboys, they expect their versions of their characters to be displayed on screen, and they expect everything that they dreamed to be displayed on screen. But I think they need to understand that everybody interprets the characters differently, and everybody is allowed creative freedom. Mm-hmm. And they shouldn't also jump down people's throats if they have a different opinion about the films.
No, definitely. I'm gonna say it loud and proud here. I don't hate Suicide Squad. And I remember when there was a time when also, gonna say it here too, I liked Jared Leto's Joker. I did. I thought it was an interesting take, and I enjoyed the direction that they were going with it, and I wish they hadn't cut so many of his scenes, because I thought it was unique, and I thought it matched the tone of the film. It wasn't, I know it wasn't everybody's Joker, and it was a bit more sexual and edgy in that way, but I didn't hate that. I thought it was interesting, and for a time you couldn't even mention that you liked the Hot Topic Joker without people assuming that you had no taste. You know?
And I feel like Jared Leto's Joker, I feel like his character makes the most sense to have been in a relationship with Harley Quinn. Because I feel like Heath Ledger, I don't think he would have had a Harley Quinn with him, or maybe Jack Nicholson. Maybe. But Jared Leto's, his relationship with Harley Quinn, it made sense. And it also, I think that with his version of the Joker, they could really tell the really dark and grittier and those scary Batman stories from the comics. He has that craziness in his eyes. He did freak me out. But what threw me off was the tattoos. And
all of the tattoos all over.
Yeah, and the
gangster Joker.
That's what threw me off. I was like, what is happening? What
is this character design?
Yeah, what is this? But his character, like the way he acted, was scary. I don't know. Maybe they were just so.
I agree. I felt that he brought a real instability to it. Like, he seemed genuinely unstable, and that if you were dealing with a person like this, you wouldn't know what to expect, and they could just go off at any second, and you could get really hurt, or he's going to come up and kiss you. You just don't know. And I like that kind of uncertainty, and it did make me want to see him and the Ben Affleck Batman together. Like, I wanted to see more of that world that had created this Joker and this Batman. For me, it fleshed out the universe and made me want to explore it more, and I think that's the mark of a successful performance.
Yeah, it is. And his lines, they still scare me a bit. I don't know. I think his portrayal was, honestly, it was fine. The universe really, he fit in the universe. It wasn't like some odd, character that was just floating around in the movie. He really made sense in that universe.
Yeah. I mean, the editing didn't serve him well, but the editing in that movie didn't serve anybody well. It was very oddly edited at points. And you can tell that it was edited by a house that normally does trailers, because some of the editing is so rapid fire, and the way they use music, sometimes it's not quite as balanced. But I feel that if people, why would you want another Heath Ledger Joker again? We already have that. That's the thing I think you were saying about having different portrayals and trying different things. That's what's so interesting. It wouldn't be interesting, I think, to see the same thing over and over again. I guess the DCU is in that awkward place because the MCU only has its one set of portrayals because it's only had one universe. So, of course, the portrayals are all consistent. This is the only time this has ever happened. So it is really unfair to compare those two things together. But of course, it's going to keep happening. It's been happening since the two have existed. So...
what I really liked about Suicide Squad was the editing. No, not the cuts that they made, but it was the text that they used and the music and the neon colors. Like that was aesthetically very pleasing and very different from the rest of the films. It really set it apart from all the other films, and I think in that aspect it was successful.
like, for me personally, I could see the meddling. Like, when I learned what the changes they made were, I could see it. Like, for example, the film was supposed to open on, oh my gosh, the Enchantress, pre-Enchantress, in the jungle, finding the statue, and that happening. But then they tested it, and they were like, oh, no one knows who Cara Delevingne is. We should open with someone people know. Open with Smith. And so that's why the film opens with him punching a punching bag, and then you have to jump back to all of the introductions, and it's like little things like that. That movie, I feel, very much suffered from them listening to what people said in the testing and the focus groups, because that's how the abuse aspect of the Harley Joker relationship got cut as well, because it made people uncomfortable. And I was like, well, it's supposed to. You're not supposed to like it. Like, it's supposed to make you feel uncomfortable. It's supposed to make you question and challenge what their relationship is, and then come away with your own opinion. So
yeah, and they definitely failed in that aspect, because I've seen people online saying, oh my gosh, their relationship goals. I'm like, what? No one...
I mean, if you want to go for that, then you have to do what they did. You have to cut all the other elements out. If you want to go for two crazy kids against the world, then you got to cut all that other stuff out. Otherwise, it's not going to work. Or at least, I mean, if you acknowledge that it is problematic, but that's the part of it you like, then it's like, yeah, I get liking the whole we're too crazy, like it's just us, you know, Morticia and Gomez, but a lot darker and a lot more evil with a lot more crime. Yeah. A lot more death. So do you dive into, like, when you're getting into different fandoms, like, do you normally get into fiction, art? Like, what kind of stuff do you normally seek out?
Oh, I love fan fiction and I love art. Yeah, I think that I usually stick to that side of the fandoms. I try not to get into discussions, even though I love discussions at the same time. It's just, you know, you can't put so much, like, you know, you can't have your mind so into a product, or else you just feel overwhelmed. So I tend to stay away from discussions. But I love fics, and yeah, I was just reading one before I went to bed last night.
What pairing was it?
Oh gosh, I didn't think I would have made it online. Who cares? It was Jason Todd and Tim Drake.
Yeah, that one's pretty popular. That one, and him and Dick is popular as well. Yeah. J-Dick, yeah. I don't know. It's a bit different with Jason, because he wasn't there for so long. Like, he died and then got better. So it's a bit different. He wasn't there the whole time.
It's true, yeah. But I don't know. I think their relationship, their dynamic is very interesting, especially in the New 52. They really changed it up a lot. I think that's what's making me a bit more comfortable into reading their relationship, because if it was pre-52, the killing and the
shooting
beating,
in the kneecap, and like yeah.
And the, you know, betraying his trust after he got him out of jail. I mean, just so much happened.
No, so, nothing says love like a gunshot to the knee.
And a boomerang on the chest. Batarang.
How did you feel about the New 52 in general?
There were a few things I really didn't like. I mean, but there are stories that I really enjoyed. But that's literally it. I think the changes that they made was very jarring, and they don't make sense. And then at the same time, the way they treated certain female characters, like Starfire. I don't understand why. Like, why did they have to do that?
Yeah, that was upsetting. It's like they reduced her just to a piece of eye candy. And it's like, yes, her sexuality and her costume and stuff, yeah, of course that's part of her character, and it always has been. But it wasn't the only thing about her. Yeah. There was more to her than that. She was a warrior princess who had come through all of the traumas of slavery and like the betrayal of her family and all this stuff. It's like, no, but look at her in a bikini.
Yeah.
That's all you need.
It is terrible. And again, because I am such a big Jason Todd fan, I'm very confused with what they decided to do with Jason Todd. It's, especially now in Rebirth, it's even more confusing, because they're not making him kill anymore, and I don't understand why. That's the whole point in his character. I don't know. I want to go on a whole tangent with Jason Todd.
I have an interesting question about that, because, you know, they implied he existed in the DCEU, at least if that's his suit that's there. So my question is, Do you think he's better alive or dead? I mean, narratively. Like, do you think there are more stories to tell with Jason alive or dead?
I want him to be alive, but narratively, okay. Honestly, it's better that he stays dead, especially what they did with Bruce Wayne's character. Because imagine Jason comes in, guns blazing, and then, I don't know, Bruce, like a few minutes ago, was just shooting down a building full of people. Like, I don't see how that would make sense.
Don't shoot people, Jason. Do as I say, not as I do.
Exactly. It won't make sense. But if they do that separate, like an Elseworld type story, you know how they're doing that with Shazam? Is Shazam going to be in the same universe?
I am not sure what is going on with Shazam. Every now and again, some Shazam news trickles down to me, and I'm like, that's still happening? How is this going to?
Yeah. But yeah, unless they do that and they tell a Red Hood story under the Red Hood, if they want to go that way. Yeah, it has to be separate from the universe, because yeah, definitely narratively it won't make sense. And
because the tone of the DCEU is a bit difficult to determine in terms of how much magic they want to incorporate into it, because sometimes they're trying for this realistic approach of trying to explain away how the things happen, and other times it's Steppenwolf. There we go.
Greek gods. They exist.
Greek gods. Steppenwolf.
Yeah, and I don't know, and because Jason Todd in the comics came back to life because of the Superboy Prime
punching that wall.
Yeah, punching the walls of reality. So I don't know how. Yeah, they would have to, and fans are not going to be happy with whatever decision they come up with.
And any Robin that appears, it'll just be, yeah.
Oh my gosh, I really wanted a Robin.
I wanted a Robin too. I was just wanting, Dick Grayson just shows up, chilling in the Batcave. That would have made me so happy.
Yeah.
But I do think they're trying to establish this grumpy old, I don't have anybody. I'm the Batman from Batman Beyond, Bruce Wayne.
Oh man, the DCEU, Batman Beyond.
I loved Batman Beyond. Like, I know it's a very sad conclusion, especially because you have all this buildup of all this relationships that he has with people, to see him end up like that. But as a story, I love Batman Beyond. I just think it's such a cool continuation of everything, even though it's depressing to know that Gotham is as terrible a city to live in as ever.
And what happened to Tim Drake? Oh my gosh.
I know.
That scene, I watched it, I was very young. And the laughing scene, the laugh crying scene,
yes,
before he shoots, yeah. Mm-hmm. I still get chills. My heart still shatters into a million pieces. I have to pick those pieces up again to try and continue with living. But that scene was just so dark, and it was so brutal.
Yeah.
And
even the censored version is still intense, because they have the two versions of that scene, the censored one and the uncensored. I'm like, either one of these scenes is still devastating.
It is chilling. It is. Oh my gosh, I can't believe they did that.
I like that, though. That's one of the things I liked about the DCEU, is that it had that great balance of being fun and accessible, but it also got so dark sometimes. But not dark enough that, hide your kids, they can't watch it, but dark enough that it made an impact. That, and like you said, it's something you remember. Moments like that I feel that DC has in abundance. That's one of the reasons I really like them. They are very good at creating these very big showstopper moments, even in a product that isn't that great. I'm hoping the fandom gets a bit, I don't know what the word is, not more tolerant, but just more open to discussion. I feel that will come with time. That's usually what happens with fandom. You can look back in retrospect and actually take stock of everything while it's not immediately happening, I find.
Yeah, it's because I do love discussing about the DCEU, and I don't have people close to me, in my proximity that enjoys the movies. They all hate it. I'm here trying to save face and trying to stand up for the DCEU, because I do want them to do better, and because I love these characters so much, I do want them just to succeed and to just have the world know that these characters exist, and that these products mean so much to people.
And I feel that it's hard too, because there are people who genuinely like it, and for some people this is their introduction to those characters, and like this is what's getting them into it, and they're going from these characters and discovering all the other wonderful versions that there are. So I don't think it's really fair to them to tell them, like, oh, well, that's not the right version of, you know, Batman or Superman. You shouldn't like them because they're inaccurate. It's like, well, everybody started somewhere. Everybody's going to like a different characterization than somebody else, and that's absolutely fine. I mean, no Batman, for me, will ever come close to touching my favorite one, which is the one from the DCEU. Like, nobody's going to touch that, and that's fine, because I always have that, you know? Like, you always have your favorite version to go back to, whether it's in the comics or whatever, wherever it is. I feel you, though. Like, I know what it's like to be the one person who either loves or hates a movie. That's why I get really scared whenever there's either really positive reviews or really negative reviews for something. Am I going to be that person
where do I fall?
who thinks the exact opposite of everybody else?
Yeah, but it gets annoying when they use it against me too. Like, they try to like, well, you like that, so I'm not gonna trust you. And I'm like, excuse me, I can have an opinion.
At my work, some people do that. They're like, you own Batman vs. Superman on Blu-ray, you don't get to talk to him.
The extended version is so much better.
It is. It
tells the story in a very coherent way, and it makes sense. Batman makes sense. It kind of makes sense. I mean, but you can see he tried in that. As a reporter, he tried, and he found what he didn't like, and he tried to do something about. You know what was confusing with Perry White? If he would want Clark Kent not to tell a story about vigilantism in Gotham versus some sports stuff that.
No, they needed that football story, and it was going to be on the front page.
Yeah, what? I'm like, do you want readers or not?
My thing, and like, I do identify with, like, you know, the fanboys, as they're called, when they do nitpick. Because I've been a nitpicker, you know, obviously, like, with my channel and stuff. But it just doesn't take away from me. But there are things that I note that do sometimes take me aback of that just an odd decision. Like, Gotham and Metropolis being sister cities. I'm like, but why? Like, they're across the river. I'm like, that has no. Where's Bloodhaven in another country?
I can't wait for the Nightwing movie.
I saw the stills for the new Teen Titans show that's coming out, and at first I wasn't sure if I liked the Robin costume, but it's grown on me, and I'm excited for Brenton Thwaites, although he's making me feel quite old. That I'm like, oh god, all these people coming up are so young, and I'm so old. This is Cole Sprouts' Jughead all over again.
He's representing Australia. No, I was shocked with the news. I was like, wow, the kid from Home and Away, which is like a show in Australia. And I was like, wow. And I hated his character on Home and Away. Oh my god, so yeah, who knows how he's gonna. I have high hopes for him. He's a really good actor, and
yeah, I've liked him in the things that I've seen him in, so I'm hopeful. I enjoy the Teen Titans a lot, so I think it'll be interesting to see what they do with it. Because, you know, DC wants to start its own streaming service, and they're going to launch it with that, Young Justice Season 3, and there's actually going to be a Harley Quinn animated series, so I'm very intrigued by all of these things.
I'm down. I can't wait. I mean, I don't understand why Hawk and Dove are there. Yeah. I don't know why, but sure. I guess I like that one episode that they were in Justice League Unlimited. Oh my gosh. They have to be very careful though with Hawk and Dove in this, because Dove is like she brings down the angerness and the aggression in Hawk. Mm-hmm. So they have to be very careful with that and not make it seem like the woman is just there to calm down which she kind of is, but she doesn't.
Well, it's hard because like they run the thing, because if they used the guy, then it'd be like, well, why didn't you use the more recent version of Dove, who's a chick? But then you run into the thing of, well, don't make her stereotypical, and it's like, sometimes it's hard.
Yeah. So yeah, they're gonna have to, with any decision they have to make, they have to rethink it tenfold, and yeah, and that's why I worry. But like, DC is normally better with their shows for that. Like, normally they're more. I find that with their shows, they seem to have an easier time sticking to their guns and just going
for what they want than with their movieverse. Again, because I think they're competing in a big way with the Marvelverse and trying to prove that their movies are just as good or as epic. And so they really do let what people say affect how they produce things. And that's how you have all these reshoots and those jarring scenes in Justice League where you can really see, like, that was a Zack Snyder scene. That was a Joss Whedon scene.
It's true. All those jokes. Do you think that with Justice League, do you think that people would have noticed if we were told that Joss Whedon had to step up for unfortunate circumstances?
Yeah. I think people would have noticed something. Because Zack Snyder's not known for being particularly jokey. Like, watching The Watchmen, there's not any scene that I can think of where all of a sudden it's like, haha, do you bleed?
That scene. Oh my gosh.
But, so I think they would have noticed, but I think they might have attributed it to studio interference or something like that, rather than to there being an actual different director who had come on. And you can kind of see the cut and pasteness though. Like, that Superman scene, I really liked it at the beginning, mustache or not, but I thought it really added to the idea of Superman as this character, this populist character who people could relate to. He's stopping, he's talking to children, and I loved it. But the only problem is he's never been like that before in this universe. So it very much stood out as like, what? Clark, what are you doing? Same with that scene where all of a sudden Wonder Woman just calls him Kal-El, just out of nowhere. And I was just like,
yeah, that's true.
And I'm like, when she barely talked to him, when did she learn that? And she's just going to call him Kal-El? It was just, I don't know. Although all the comments on that video made me real uncomfortable because it was just like, she's so sexy when she says Kal-El. And I was like, I'm getting out of here. I'm getting out of this comment section. It's time to go.
Yeah. The scene that I just loved the most was with the Flash running, and then Superman has the three.
And he slowly turns.
He slowly turns. And I'm like, oh my God, this is the greatest scene I've ever seen in my entire life, and I can't believe it here. See, that's the thing with Justice League. It had so many great moments, but the story itself was... It was just there.
It was It was cookie cutter. It was cut and paste. It was a waste of introducing anything to do with Darkseid, but like you said, there were these great character moments. Like, that's a wonderful scene where all of a sudden the Flash realizes he's encountering someone as fast as him for the first time in his life. That is really cool. And then you pair it with Steppenwolf's got to put the three boxes together to form the thing.
Oh my gosh. I feel... See, and now it seems like they're not even going to go the Darkseid route.
Yeah.
And I don't know, I feel like that's disappointing, and they really should have thought, what they wanted to do with the universe through, because that whole setup in BVS is kind of what weighed the movie down a bit. The whole, Clark, Bruce, you were right, it's Lois.
That was hard, because that was the one scene I had to turn and explain to my husband what was going on. I was like, okay, so those are Darkseid's minions. Because I feel like that was hard. If you're not a comic person, or like you're not even caught up on certain things, and even the character design wasn't necessarily very reminiscent of what you might have been familiar with them looking like. So that was hard for, non-comic people to have to come into that, and it's like, what's going on in the future? What's happening?
Because when I saw it, I was like, oh, Darkseid, and people were like, who? And I'm like, you'll see, but now we're not going to get it. So they won't see it.
Where do you think it's going to go? Like, do you think it's actually going to come together and be cohesive, or are you kind of afraid it's just going to collapse in on itself?
I think it's going to be cohesive. I think they're starting to pick things up properly and trying to get this, I'm not going to swear, to get this stuff together. I hope, because they're all over the place, characterizations, with story, with plot, with just about everything. So they really need to step it up a bit and just think things through. If they pushed Justice League, a bit more into the future, just when are they going to release it? how much different the product we would have gotten would have been. And I don't know. They just need time. They just need time. That's all they need. They're rushing everything, and it's like, please calm down. I just want good stuff. I don't need the stuff right now. I just want.
Yeah. It doesn't need to come out the same year as Avengers Infinity War or anything like that. It's fine. You can do your own timeline, and we'll still be here. We will still be here.
Yeah, it's true. I'll still be here. I'm waiting for good product now. See, that's why I had hopes for Aquaman, because Aquaman doesn't seem to have a lot of studio meddling and stuff like that. So.
I also feel that Aquaman has such a bad rep in fandom anyway, and people have their expectations so low. I feel like that will actually help him, which is terrible, because Aquaman isn't that bad. Like, I know those 60s cartoons are real cheesy, and that one pilot that existed with Fox from Passions / the Green Arrow on Smallville was a hot mess, but I think it can be done. Although I do laugh at how edgy they're trying to make him. Like, they're trying real hard to be like, Aquaman's not lame. Look, he's a hard drinking rap.
Yeah, he has the hair like mine.
Like, you know, like, he's sexy. Just get behind Aquaman. I'm like, look, I was already behind Aquaman. I enjoy Jason Momoa as just the next person, but you don't need to try that hard. It's okay.
Yeah, I feel like that Aquaman, what happened in Justice League, I feel like he just made it into, you know, audience appreciation because he's so edgy, but in reality his story just made no sense. He really had not much to do in the film.
How much do you wish that they had introduced him in BVS in that scene where Lois, like an idiot, throws the kryptonite spear into the water? Yeah, and he just reached out.
And it's like, bye.
I actually would have loved that. I know it would have been cheesy, but at least it would have established him in more than that video of him, like, floating out from the submarine or whatever. So,
question about his character. Did he know about Atlantis? He knew about Atlantis.
Yeah. I think they were going for, like, he was shirking his responsibility storyline based on how Mara was talking to him about how, like, oh, you're the firstborn, it's time for you to step up and take responsibility and stop going to random fishing villages.
So that's what happened. So he knows about Atlantis. He knows that he has responsibility. So what's happening to Atlantis right now?
That's my question, because like they had guards and so I was like, is his brother doing it? What is happening?
And apparently they cut so much Aquaman scenes out, which is a shame.
I'm excited for the extended edition. I am. I always enjoy seeing the scenes that they cut out, and I feel that in this one there's definitely going to be a lot. Because you can feel that they were clearly just, okay, we don't have time, cut that out, cut that. And
they really wanted 2 hours. They were sticking for 2 hours, which is a shame because it did feel, it was kind of slow in the beginning, and then in the middle it just like, you know, like, oh, did that just happen? When did that happen? Especially when Steppenwolf takes the last box.
Oh yeah, it's just like, oh yeah, he's got the box. Like, bam. Like,
ooh, okay. Okay. And then I think the first act was okay, and then it picked up. Honestly, just to say, it was a fine superhero movie. It was a fine superhero, and then seeing how the critics took it, I'm like, why?
Yeah, it's like I would watch this again 3 times before I would watch, say, Iron Man 3 or Thor 2 or like, I don't need to see those ever again, but I watch this again. Like, I feel like there's stuff worthy of analysis for repeat viewings in it that, you know, people were a bit harsh because it does have those flaws. But again, why is it being critiqued so harshly versus, say, something like Doctor Strange, which I enjoyed, but was very much a cookie cutter paste, like, hurry up, he's got to be Doctor Strange in 20 minutes kind of movie.
I didn't really like Doctor Strange. It was boring to me. Like, visually it was stunning, but I'm like, do I really have to continue watching this movie? It's like, I don't care. And then the whole ending at the end with the going back in time and going forward and back and then And yeah, and I was like, okay, this is boring. Worst way to deal with a villain. But yeah, it's just to say it was a fine movie. It was a cookie cutter superhero movie, so clearly the critics don't want that. Despite Marvel, every Marvel movie is a cookie cutter of itself, except for
yeah, because I find it very interesting that this can be like Justice League can be accused of being cookie cutter, even though it did try to do some different things. Whereas Guardians of the Galaxy can get a complete pass for completely rehashing the same things from the first one. And just really pandering very hard to what people liked. Because it's like, oh my god, okay, so like, I'm not going to spoil like anything like too much for you, but you know like how at the end of Guardians of the Galaxy 1, there's the cute dancing Baby Groot. Oh, Baby Groot, he's dancing, that's adorable. So they're like, did you like dancing Baby Groot? Well, enjoy 3 minutes of dancing Baby Groot at the very beginning.
Oh wow, like, that's cute.
TLO. For the entire sequence. I enjoy dancing Baby Groot, but I can tell when I'm being pandered to. So, you know what I mean? Of all the things that they have changed, what is the thing that bothered you the most?
I want to say Batman's character. I did like it. I do like what Ben Affleck is doing. The way he delivers the lines, it's very Batman-esque in some ways. Mm-hmm. But the decision to have him be this dark, gritty, 20 years into being a vigilante, it's just, I don't know, it didn't make a lot of sense in the universe. And I didn't like the older version of Batman. I wanted a younger version, but you know, that's just me being nitpicky and me being, I want my Batman to be a certain way. But so I do like the direction they went through, but I also don't like it because I wanted stories to be told a bit differently, and some of the decision making, it just didn't make sense for the character and why I love Batman and why I want, you know, it's just.
Yeah, like I agree with you. I don't mind it. I do wish he was younger because then I feel there's more time to tell more of his stories that you might not necessarily get with an older Batman who's clearly already injured and on his way out because he's got some serious chronic injuries. But I think, for me, the age that bothered me was Superman starting so late, because he starts late too. Because he's 33, I think. Because because Jesus, because they really wanted to hit that comparison real hard there. But I was like, so he's just, his whole people have been dying and the whole time, huh? You know, it just it made it a bit harder for me to get behind him, because I was like, he's been ignoring all this for so long. Because it's not like Batman, like, he can hear it, because that's the one thing with Superman, he can hear all the cries and stuff, and that's part of what, you know, enables him and drives him to save all of these people. So I'm like, so he was just putting this aside to be a fisherman on a boat? I just really
he did. Well, with that, I mean, he did save people in his time.
Kind of. Yeah, the few people, like that chick in the bar and those people on the boat. But that was really Kevin Costner's fault, because he was all, you saved a bus full of children, huh? You didn't need to do that.
Yeah, it's like, maybe. And I'm like, what? What kind of fatherly advice is this? Telling your son maybe save them?
That was the thing, and that's why when they kept bringing attention to it, like he's buried with the picture of Kevin Costner, I'm like, why? Like, what are you doing?
And when he goes to the mountains and sees Kevin Costner, it's like, okay.
See, that's the thing, is that it's what I miss with the DCEU, especially in the discussions, is that it's hard to discuss it like this, and like, you can acknowledge that there are flaws, but that you still enjoy it, you know, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Like, so many people just want you to straight up hate it and not, you know, not enjoy any of it, which is hard, because that's definitely not me. So
yeah, it's like when my brother, he came and it's like, did you watch Justice League? I was like, yeah. It's like, I hated it. And I'm like, I liked it. I cried because I was so overwhelmed. And that's the thing where I started thinking, and I was saying to myself, okay, do I like it because it's a good movie? No. Do I like it just because they were there and you just saw them on the big screen? Yes. So it's like, where does my judgment fall, and how am I judging these movies? Is it just based off the fact that I love these characters so much and I'm seeing them for the first time on the big screen, or is it because they're doing whatever they can with the characters. So how do I judge something when we have the fan goggles on and I just can't? Because I am forgiving of every choices that they make, but I think that's healthy.
I find it interesting too because you are a comic fan, and a lot of the times that's not something you find in comic fans. They are often less forgiving of the changes. I find I like giving things a chance. I do, even if they're not matching canonically. Like something has to go pretty far before it'll bother me. Like a Lex, like a Jesse Eisenberg's Lex.
As a Flash fan, okay, let's talk about Flash.
Okay. Yes,
as a Flash fan, when they first announced that Ezra Miller was going to play the Flash, I was like, this black-haired, brown-eyed dude is gonna play my blonde-haired, blue-eyed Barry Allen.
Yeah.
Okay, and I do enjoy Ezra Miller's acting, and honestly, him as Flash, I'm gonna say it, I still don't feel it. I just don't, and he's the one character I still don't feel. Maybe because I'm really connected with the Flash character, maybe, but I don't feel it as much.
It was an interesting characterization choice. I will say that. I saw in Fandom lots of people really liked it because they're going for that. Yeah, for that very socially awkward, everything's too, like, he's actually having a difficult time connecting because the world is so slow to him. And I'm like, that's an interesting take. I find that interesting that he just can't relate because he's moving so much faster than all people. But at the same time, he was very, like, spastic and spazzy and kind of out of it, and that's not my favorite version of the Flash, but then he didn't seem out of place with the rest of them. Like, again, like a Jared Leto thing, like he didn't seem out of place for the world. But I do like my Flash, who's the friendly neighborhood Flash, who pays people's fences and is late to everything because he spent time talking to the villains he was putting in prison, you know?
Yeah. So yeah, I understand. See, this is where my understanding side comes. I'm like, okay, I understand. You explained it. The world is moving too slow for his fast little brain. Like, I get it. But I didn't really enjoy it, and everybody loves it. He was adorable. His moments with Batman, especially, like the whole mentor-student relationship. Like, I did enjoy that when Batman told him just save one. I was like, okay.
Yeah, it's almost like the Robin experience that we're not getting. You know, we kind of got that with him and the Flash.
That's what it was. That's what it was. It was the Robin experience I'm missing. We need a Robin. Oh my gosh.
Batman needs a Robin.
He needs a Robin. No wonder he's out killing people.
I know. There are some great fics, actually, I've read recently, where people introduced Tim Drake, and it's the exact premise of how he was introduced in the comics, where he shows up and he's like, you need a Robin. And I'm like, yes. Oh yes, God. He does, and they're so good. And they're turning into giant multi-chapter epics, so I'm so excited. I love reading stuff like that.
I want to read that.
They're on AO3. They're pretty recent, so they shouldn't be hard to find. I'll link you up, like after, because they're really good.
Oh my gosh, I love Tim Drake. Honestly, speaking of comics, I don't know what they're doing with Tim Drake in the comics.
They don't know what they're doing with Tim Drake in the comics.
Oh my gosh. It is so sad to see this unfolding.
Okay, can I just say that since they introduced Damian Wayne, they do not know what to do with any of the other Robins. They have no idea because they put all of this focus on he's the one true son, and now it's like, oh, Tim Drake, Jason Todd, Dick, what are we doing with any of them? And they can't figure it out. And I'm so triggered because I'm like, okay, Damian isn't interesting enough to throw away all of these other characters over him. I'm sorry. I know people are going to be triggered, but that's fine.
Honestly, it's true. I love Damian Wayne. I love the little shit. Keep on swearing. I love the little thing that he is. But honestly, I don't understand why they have to treat the other Robins like that. And when in the Flash and Batman crossover with the button,
yes,
yeah, when he says to Thomas, "I have a son," I'm like, one? You have one son? Really, Bruce?
I know. I was like, you have several sons and a couple of daughters. Like, let's get this straight.
Yeah. And I'm like, what is happening? And I still don't. And I'm like, are they adopted? Dick, Tim, and Tim is.
Tim is, Jason was, Dick was for a time. It's like, it's hard because that was one of the conflicts between Jason and Dick, was that he adopted Jason and he hadn't adopted Dick. And that was like a huge conflict. And then later on he does, and then that kind of unhappened. Like, it's really confusing as to who's adopted currently and who isn't. But I was always like, either way, that's his son. He raised him for so long, and their relationship they have is very much a father-son relationship. So I hate when they try and take that away from them, and like they're this mentor-mentee. They're like buddy-buddy, like, hey, old chum. Yeah. I'm like, is it the 60s? Like, what are we doing?
So true. Yeah, and I also don't like what they're doing with Stephanie Brown. I reread her Batgirl comics. I'm like, this character is so amazing. What did they do in the New 52?
I know, I loved Stephanie. I loved Cassandra Cain. I loved Stephanie. I loved Cassandra Cain. And I was so sad when they were just like, oh, they don't exist anymore because we don't want to do legacy characters. And I was like, but that's one of the things that makes DC so interesting is its legacy characters, just the way that their characters pass on their titles that they've tried to do with Marvel, that it just isn't the same because they don't have the same history with them that they have with the longevity of DC's characters. And so when they decided in the New 52 for a while that they weren't going to have that, I was so bummed out. I was so bummed.
Yeah. Cassandra, and then they tried to bring them back in Batman and Robin Eternal, and the story was pretty good, I guess. But again, Stephanie's characterization kind of threw me off.
Here's an interesting question. I think it's interesting. You'll let me know if it's not. So, the unparalyzation of Barbara Gordon, how do you feel about that? Because I'm not really down with it. But how do you feel about her back's fixed? She's fine. She's Batgirl again.
I don't know. I think they took a lot out of what Barbara Gordon represented for a lot of people, even for herself as a character. Mm-hmm. I feel like they just took that away from her. And honestly, her time as Oracle was it was just amazing. Like what she accomplished as Oracle, and more so than she did as Batgirl. And I don't know.
I guess for me, because the difficult thing with comics in particular is the characters aren't ever really allowed to move forward that much, because there's always that fear of, losing that core demographic, like, bringing new people in. They don't want to be confused. So the characters never really get that chance to evolve and stay evolved. Like a case like a Nightwing, where he actually got to grow up and become a new character, is so rare. It doesn't happen very often, which is part of why I love him. Although now he too is suffering from that whole, I can't grow up, and like I have a girlfriend, maybe she's pregnant. Oh no, she's not.
I broke up 2 seconds later, I'm kissing another girl.
Yeah, some people don't know how to characterize Dick Grayson at all. They're like, he sleeps with a lot of ladies, right? And I'm like,
he's a one-woman kind of man, but no.
Yeah, he's a one woman at a time kind of man.
He is. Oh. I do understand that aspect. It's what's happening with Red Hood at the moment too. It's like, so what? I'm gonna just stick him into this villainous, I'm gonna kill everybody because Bruce didn't kill the Joker, or am I going to evolve as a character and see the world in a different light? Because he is growing up. He is forming relationships with other people.
And
it's
where can he go from there? And that's why I was so sad when he did die. And I'm really mad if that rumor that they say is true, that it was just one guy redialing his phone over and over again. But it's because before that, he was finally starting to develop into being an actual different character from Dick Grayson. Because when he first arises, he's very much just the same character. And like, if you're reading certain stories, you can't even tell the difference. But then when he actually started to have this rebellious streak of maybe he's someone who's going to go too far, that was so interesting. But it's like, are we going to let him go too far? And if he comes back, then what is there for him narratively? What is he going to do? Is he just going to hang around with Tim Drake? Like, whatever.
Yeah, it was. And then after they did bring him back, he put on the Red Hood and was like, okay, Bruce, decide. And I'm like, okay. After all that, I don't know what the writers, I think after that they didn't understand what Winnick, what he wanted Red Robin to represent. I don't think any of them understood that, because after the battle of the cowl and What else happened? Yeah, after that especially. That was
Balfour
just
Carl, R.I.P. Just ugh.
yeah. Oh my gosh, it's like, do you want him to be a villain or anti-hero? Decide, please.
That whole arc where they killed Batman just felt so superfluous in general. And I was one of those people who didn't actually like the return of Bruce Wayne, so I had to sit there in my corner because at the time it was like, Return of Bruce Wayne is the best comic of all time, and I was like, okay.
I enjoyed it, but yeah, it was.
It was fine. It was
Yeah.
Batman hopping through different time periods.
Yeah.
That was what it was.
That was fun.
Although, my favorite character is coming back soon. I'm so excited. Booster Gold.
Oh, Booster Gold, I saw. I was like, oh my god, look at him.
I mean, he just vanished from existence for a while there, and I was
He
like,
did, didn't he?
Booster Gold.
In fact, did you? There's rumors of a Booster Gold movie with Blue Beetle.
I would be
that
so
died.
down for Booster Gold and Blue Beetle.
Oh, yeah.
That
Oh
would
my
be
gosh,
so
that'll be
great.
so fun.
Booster Gold's another character where they never let him get past his whole money grubbing, I want to be rich and famous origin, which is fine because that's entertaining, but he too has evolved as a character. For the DCEU, I just want to see what characters they bring into it. That's what I like seeing. I like seeing how they do their characters, you know? Even if they are off. I don't know, like, I enjoyed Wonder Woman, but there are many different ways they could have done Wonder Woman, and, like, maybe they still will. It's interesting.
Yeah, I'm excited for the sequel. I wonder who she's going to be fighting, if it's going to be Cheetah, if it's going to be Cersei,
If they do
the government.
Cheetah, I'm just so curious as to what the character design will be. I just want to see that happen.
Yeah.
For what is the character design going to be?
Yeah, that would be. Ugh, with how they're doing CGI at the moment, that would be scary. Honestly, do you think Steppenwolf, people would have tolerated him more if he wasn't completely CGI, if it was just an actor's face on a
I
suit?
think so, because that was very jarring too, because he's so obviously CGI, because like lots of the fighting, especially when he's fighting Superman at the end, that's just two computer generated characters fighting. That was all that was. It's like you're watching a video game cutscene, and that can very much take you out of the action, because I wanted to care. I wanted that to be Superman's big triumphant return, and he's here, and he's gonna not this time, not this time. He's gonna take out Steppenwolf, but it's hard to connect, I feel, for people and it was the same for me with Cyborg. I liked the design, but I do feel that it was very obviously computer generated, and he has those shirts, the actor, bless him, he's so into it, Borg life, and I'm like, that's so great, and I love that, and that's hilarious, but I just wish they had done more of an actual mesh blending of, say, some Borg-like components with the CG, because that tricks the eye better when you blend the components than just having it all be CG like that.
Yeah, they could have, I don't know, Iron Man looks fine on...
Yeah, I know! Add some more rendering to that.
He just... again, I think it's just time. Time really got the best of them in terms of just everything.
How do you feel about that Cyborg Flash ship? Because that one's popping up hard. People are down for the accidents.
Yeah.
It's
cute. I enjoy it. I never would have seen it, honestly. Never. But this movie kind of got me into it. It honestly sparked Superbat as well. I was like, okay, Superbat, I like it.
Bruce is in love with him. Like, what is going on with that?
He brought a bank. An entire bank.
So he could get his house back.
Oh my god. Bruce, you're...
And did you see how he touched him on the lower back at the end? I was like, when did they get close like that? Like, you tried to kill him in the last movie.
I actually squealed when Superman comes back and Batman is all flustered and it's like,
he smiles.
I squealed.
I was like, who is this smiling Batman? Where is my dower? How many of them stayed good Batman from BVS?
I never thought the movie would really go in that direction. Nah, but yeah, I really enjoyed. Honestly, I did enjoy when the characters interacted. Every moment, each moment.
I enjoyed their interactions as well. Here's the thing. They felt like they could stand to be in the same room together, which is not a vibe I ever got from the Avengers, for example. For the event, like, some of them like each other in the Avengers, but as a team, they hate each other. Like, they just it is not a cohesive team. But with Justice League, I at least felt like, you know what, maybe these people, I can see them hanging out in the Batcave, being there and chilling in his now much nicer, less grungier Batcave. I have to say, he added some more lighting in between BVS and Justice League. I think that was what was more jarring for me than anything, was that there were so many, like, cinematographically, costume-wise, they weren't uniform. They didn't feel the same. Like, have you seen the threads where people were comparing the Amazons costuming from Wonder Woman to the Amazons costuming in Justice League?
Yeah. And the various butt shots of Wonder Woman also.
Those were not subtle. They thought those were subtle. It's like, oh, Bruce is getting off the plane. That's what you're looking at, not her just framed in the side.
I swear. That you can see the difference when a woman and a man directs. I don't mean to be a feminist, but come on. Come on.
I don't know, because his shots weren't framed that way in BVS. Like, you didn't they weren't. Like, he didn't linger like that. And, like, even with her costumes, like, she wore those classy gowns and stuff like that in BVS. But in Justice League, all of a sudden, it's very, very low cut and, like, leather pants all the way. And I'm like, did they change costume directors? You know? I
love that scene where she comes in with the red and her hair's, like, so beautiful. That was a really nice scene. Okay, question.
Yes.
Important question. People are hating on Joss Whedon a lot.
They have been recently, yes.
Yes. But I've heard the things that they cut off that Zack Snyder was going to put in, and then I see what Joss Whedon did, and I think Joss Whedon, he really saved the film for what it is. No offense, but he kind of did.
I think that right now it's very popular to hate on Joss Whedon because he, all that personal stuff came out about him lately, and I feel that some people are definitely letting that affect how they feel about his work, because they feel that he's, a fake feminist and all of that stuff, and so they're being a lot harsher on his work than I feel they would have been otherwise. But there's also the fact that their directing styles are very dissonant, and they have very different ideas about how a superhero movie should feel. But I do feel that his scenes were more true to a more traditional view of the characters and how they would be presented. Because Zack Snyder's always had an interesting take on the superhero. Like, I've read interviews with him where he's not even a big fan of the genre in general. Yeah. So it's very fascinating that he's the directorial choice for that, and you can feel that sometimes in his choices. BVS does not feel like a movie that likes Superman. That feels like a movie that is angry that he exists. But this one, with those little additions, it feels like a movie that cares about him and that he should be there. And I feel like that's important for what they're going for. So I would agree that I think those touches work for the overall narrative that they're trying to build, because it feels like some of Zack Snyder's directorial decisions don't match with what they want their world to say. And I felt that way from the beginning. From Killing onward, it's not matching with what they want people to take away from it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's exactly it. Because, like I said, in Man of Steel, the music was so hopeful. It's one of the best scores that Hans Zimmerman has. Zimmerman. I think. That was one of the most beautiful soundtracks I've in any movie. It was so hopeful. It was beautiful. The villain themes were, they were scary. They were jaunting. They really made you feel uncomfortable. Even in BVS, the music is also beautiful, and really the theme for each character is just beautiful. But you don't see that in that world that they're in. It's not a nice world that they're living. Everyone hates Superman. Poor dude, honestly.
What did somebody say? I saw that made me laugh. They were like, just call him for an interview. Like, stop tapping.
It's like, the world needs Superman. I'm like, okay, the world doesn't need Superman.
I'm like, is this the one world where he hasn't given Lois that exclusive interview that he always gives her? Like, he's dating her canonically. Why is this not happening?
You know what? That is probably it. I think you cracked it. He has not done the exclusive interview yet. Because
that's the interview that really turns the world, into liking him. He needs to give her that exclusive.
Instead of, flooding the apartment.
Right.
Interview first and then flood the apartment.
That was one one thing I didn't like about Justice League. I didn't like that implication that it was wrong for her to have been sad. There was that scene where she's reuniting with him in the cornfield, and she's like, I wasn't strong. You would be so disappointed in me. He died. Like, what do you mean you weren't strong? Like, you're allowed to be sad, you know?
Yeah. That was very weird too. Do you like Lois Lane?
In general or in these movies?
In these movies.
I like what they're going for with her. I like the idea of making her an actual, really decent investigative reporter who finds out who he is right away, because it's not hard. And I liked that aspect of it, and I liked the whole idea of her really being that gung-ho, going for the story. But then I just feel they didn't give her enough to do, unfortunately. Like, you don't really see her chasing down her own leads or finding out her own stuff too much in a way that doesn't tie together with Clark, which is too bad, because I do feel they wanted to get away from that stereotype of him saving her. But the one thing about that stereotype is the reason he's saving her is because she's always got her nose in everybody's business, you know, investigating everything. So in that way, because she spends a lot of BVS just being sad, you know, that Clark's having a hard time. And I wish that... He's having
brings down everybody.
It's
and he brings down everybody around him.
But I wish she had a bit more to do, and especially in this one, she's just there. She doesn't have a lot to do in this. They give her the status of, like, you know, she brings him back, but she doesn't. That's Bruce. We all know it was Bruce. He didn't remember anything until Bruce showed up. And he remembered he was angry.
Yeah, did you find that weird though, that he comes back but they reconcile and they, you know, save Martha, the whole
yes.
Martha controversy. But
Martha moms unite, yeah.
Yeah, but did that make sense for Superman to come back and see Bruce and like, okay, I'm angry at you. Tell me, do you bleed? Like,
I will never know that. Oh, my favorite line from that. You won't let me live. You won't let me die. Okay, you won't let me die. But when did he not let you live? Like, that didn't happen.
Oh my god, so true.
I was like, that didn't happen at all. I saw Batman versus Superman. I felt that they were treating it almost like a Lazarus pit, which was interesting to me. The way he came back with that, because they were hinting at it, you know, like, oh, he's not going to be quite right when he comes back. There's going to be a piece missing. It was very Lazarus pity, his resurrection, that moment of, you know, insanity and not remembering who he was, which I would have preferred if it was a Lazarus pit, to be honest. That would have been a cool way to introduce some more, you know, lore into the universe. I think it kind of made sense that he was brainlessly angry, but then all of a sudden it becomes all focused when Bruce shows up, and it's just... I just think they wanted to make fun of that "Do you bleed" line, to be honest.
Yeah. Such a great line. Oh my gosh.
We were texting it back and forth at my work for a while. Instead of asking for, like, what we wanted, we just were like, hey, do you bleed?
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I think that scene, that the way that they resurrected Superman, I think that was... I liked it. It shocked me. I didn't see it coming, and it was done. I think it was done well, like, for what it was. Yeah.
I do kind of wish, like, you know, just silly fangirl wishes. Like, I'd love to see his black costume, little things. But for what they had to do and how they had to do it, I think it was pretty good. I just wish, like you said, the last act hadn't been so rushed. Because he goes from, I'm angry and I want to kill everybody. Oh, hey, Lois. Oh, hey, I gotta go save the world.
They didn't use a lot of the scenes that was in the trailers. Like when you hear the footsteps going down and Alfred is like, oh, he told me you were... I forgot what he says.
How do you feel about that? Because sometimes these days they actually shoot scenes just for trailers and they know they're not going to use them. That bothers me.
Yeah. I really wanted to see that scene with Alfred. That would have been cool, seeing Alfred and Superman interact.
I wanted to see the scene of heartsick Bruce staring at his cape. Like, where's that scene?
Yeah. Yeah. I really, really, really wanted that Alfred Superman scene because injustice. They did the dirty. They did what they did with
I like this
Superman
Alfred.
Alfred there.
How do you feel about this?
Yeah.
I like sassy Jeremy Irons Alfred.
Yeah. That's how I pictured him. He's supposed to be, you know what? F you, Bruce.
I like Ben Affleck. I do like him as Batman. I prefer him as Batman to... Okay, I prefer him as Bruce Wayne to Christian Bale as Bruce Wayne. Let's put it that way. Because Christopher Nolan admitted that he didn't feel that Bruce Wayne was much of a character because he viewed it more as Bruce Wayne as the Mask. So Christian Bale doesn't really have a lot to do in those movies because of it. No. Because I prefer the characterization just personally where Bruce Wayne is also a character because I feel that's more an interesting struggle, that he is a person who's, you know, and I feel you get that with these movies, that he's a person who's given up everything. He's given up everything for this. That's sad, and I hope he can have some friends now and they can play in his clubhouse.
Yeah, and that scene that he has with Alfred, that Superman's more human than he is because he has Lois and because, you know, he has a life. That was an Alfred.
It was
Alfred's face. Yeah, it's like when they cut to Alfred's face, it was like, okay, I failed as a parent because my son here doesn't feel like he is human anymore.
The DCEU has so many of those strong, great character moments. It really does, and they never get any credit for it. And they have
no, they don't. It's like, oh, did you see the mustache? Oh, didn't see the mustache? Did you see the lip, the weird lip thing? Yeah. Let's talk about that. You know, if that was not a headline, no one would have noticed. They would have noticed something was wrong, but they wouldn't have blown it out of proportion.
They wouldn't have known what. It would have been like when people watched Les Mis and they didn't understand why it was pissing them off when it's because the whole movie's like shot in close-up. And that's annoying, but no one realized it. It's like when there are little like mise-en-scène or editing choices, but you don't know what they are, unless people tell you or you work with that kind of stuff so you're in the know, you're not going to know it's bothering you. It's just going to be like, something's wrong with Clark, but what is
it? Because as soon as he came flying down to see the kids, I'm like, his face looks weird. Okay, look what he's doing. He sounds so cute. What is this little kid asking him questions? Honestly, it did not bother me. I don't know why it bothers others.
That's the thing. I don't feel that fandom should ever feel scary. And it always makes me sad when it gets like that, you know, where it's just like I do feel that there's a big silent portion of people who probably like the DCEU more than they're prepared to admit.
I wish I could speak up more and say, you know what, it's good because of this. It's good because in this character moment where Bruce is admitting that Superman is more human, it really shows the difference between the two characters. It shows why Bruce is struggling so much, why he couldn't understand Superman and where he came from.
Yeah, that was actually a great and very in-character moment. It was really good. It was up there with, you know, when in the DCEU where Superman dies and he's at his grave talking about how he was the best of them, and you know, it tugs at your heartstrings. I just wish BVS had shown that he was the best of them. How do you feel about Wonder Woman's characterization in BVS? Because I've talked about this a few times where I feel I like it, but I feel that she's kind of off, almost Catwoman-y in the way that the two of them interact.
Yeah, it was like I'm not the woman the type of woman you think I don't know what the line was.
Kind of woman like
me. You never want to kind of like me. I'm like, okay, Diana. And then Bruce was like just looking at her from across the room and like, yeah, it did feel like very Catwoman-y. Is that true that in that last scene of Justice League where Wonder Woman is at the museum and you see a woman in red walking, people were saying that's Catwoman, that's Selena Kyle?
I'm not sure if that's true or if that's just people headcanoning.
Headcanoning, yeah.
It would be cool if it was true, but I would love to know that Selena Kyle existed. I was like, please, someone give Bruce a hug. Just, you know.
How do you feel about the relationship between Batcat at the moment? At the
they're getting married? Like,
yeah.
It's not the first time. I mean, they had, like, the Huntress used to be their daughter. So, like, it's just...
Yeah.
I don't mind the idea of Bruce having a permanent relationship with someone who genuinely knows who he is. I think that's an interesting way to move the character forward. It's just the only thing is that whenever this happens, I just always get that, oh, they're going to reset. They're going to reset and it's not going to stick. And because whenever they have characters, you know, get married and stuff, they rarely let them stay that way. There are actual mandates that pass through these companies about how it's just narratively not interesting. And as a married woman, I'm offended. No, marriage is it's more difficult to write. I find that they have a hard time writing relationships with conflicts that don't end up with the characters breaking up or having some horrendous affair. So I like the idea of it, but then again, you know, writers change, and it's gonna be interesting to see where it goes. How do you feel about it?
I feel the exact same way. I don't want to get attached because I'm like, I know something's going to happen. Something's going to happen to Selena. Something's going to happen between both of them. Bruce is going to F up in some way. Like, something's going to happen. It's not going to stick. But they are adorable, and they do work well together, and they always have.
They always
will.
Yeah.
But
it's a great dynamic because I feel that Bruce needs that character who has that slight hint of darkness because he's got that hint of darkness himself. So I don't think he can be with like a Lois. Although I'm a fan of the backstory where Lois used to date Lex. I find that fascinating because there was this period of time where there was the implication perhaps that her character was drawn to men of power. And the reason she was with Clark was partially because he was so powerful. And I was like, you know what? That's interesting. I'd be down to explore that. But, you know, I'm also really just a fan of her being with Superman and being really nice and go-getty. So I'll take either.
Yeah. They're so adorable in the comics right now. And John he's such a little sweetheart. I just want to protect him at all costs.
I have this hard thing because I love Superman as a great dad, but then I also loved him as a terrible dad in Young Justice. So. I can't believe Bruce was giving him pointers on how to be a dad. I know, they went out for their pie date. It was so great.
Yeah, like, Clark, you need to be there for him, and then.
But I'll take my pie to go.
Yeah. So, okay. But yeah, John, he's such a great little character, and especially him and Damian. Super Sons is such a fun read.
It is, and it really fleshes out Damian, and it brings him past that just like being a precocious brat into having some real solid characterization, which I'm a fan of.
That the writers keep going back to. He had this incredible character development, and then back again, he's a little
Then it's back
brat.
to the same Damian who called Catwoman a tramp, yeah.
It's like, please, just, he is developing. Let the boy develop. He's not always going to be this way. He has had a loving, parent.
Yeah.
And Dick was with him, and Alfred, and he has this support system that allows his character to grow, and he allows his character to be fleshed out.
That's
and they
why
keep on reverting it back.
When they pit him and Dick against each other, because I'm like, no, like, Dick was this great mentoring influence in his life. Like, please don't have him come for him like that.
Yeah, like, let him be sarcastic. Let him be, kind of.
Yeah, like, he can be a bit, like, off-putting and abrasive. Yeah. Like, fine, but, like, let's not put it to the point where you don't want to see him,
Yeah,
like,
and the Teen Titans run at the moment. Are you serious? He's doing this with Damian's character at this point in time, where he's different with the Super Sons. He has a different relationship with John. And he's not going to treat his other teammates with some level of decency. Like, come on! What he did to Wally was.
It's not okay. I'm not okay.
I was shocked.
I know that. It's like we're doing an ad, like people are like, oh, and I gotta read Teen Titans now. They're so shook.
Read it. You will be shook what he does to Wally. Both Wallys.
Anyways, I actually need to get going because it's 6:30 here, so it's nearly time to do the nighttime routine and all of that fun stuff. I had a lot of fun. I hope you did too, but it was really great to chat about the DCEU. Do you want to shill your Tumblr again for the people who want to follow you?
So if you found my incoherent thoughts at the moment, it's 10 a.m. This is early in the morning, guys. But you can find me at Demiwho. Or if you're a K-pop fan and you need some support at the moment, also LuluFX.
Yes. Thank you so much, and hopefully we can do it again sometime.
Yeah, we should definitely. All right.
All right, enjoy the rest of your day.
Enjoy your night.
Did you make it all the way to the end? If you did, as always, you are a trooper. Thank you so much. I hope you had fun listening to us, and of course, the question to prove that you actually made it to the end: what do you think of the DCEU? And what is your favorite film within it? Please share all of your thoughts and feelings down below. And it's fine to hate it. You don't have to have the same opinions as us. We can all talk about various things in fandom and disagree. It's fine. Like we said in this Fanversation, the worst thing is when people feel that they can't talk about how they actually feel, as if it lowers your overall credibility if you like or dislike something that other people don't. It's fine. Please, all of the opinions, you know I love them. Thank you so much for watching, and like I said at the beginning, there is so much more to come. So please stay tuned, and let's get to that outro. Bye-bye. This has been Shipper's Guide to the Galaxy. Don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe. Again, thank you to all of my patrons, names on the side. Follow me on social media to stay up to date, and as always, stay tuned, for there are as many ships out there as there are stars in the sky.